Good afternoon. My name is Del Rodriguez, and this is Flabongo Monthrothacube. And with me today, I've got my co-host,
Tony Stevenson.
And we have our amazing guest.
I'm James Lizars.
Hey, James. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. How exciting.
So we've got to get the basic questions out first. What is Thrive? Why are you a trailblazer?
Thrive is an accounting business. So we've been going since 2013. And we have a bit of a focus niche around early stage tech businesses and specifically climate tech businesses these days. And in terms of what we do for them, we're about, in terms of our fee base, we're about 40% compliance payroll, and the rest of it is sort of finance function on an outsourced basis. So we provide all of what a startup business needs to scale up through to when they hire their own team.
Okay.
So that's one of my jobs. Another of my jobs is kind of self-imposed in taking that forward to be kind of a case study as to how you can run a profitable, growing, successful, commercially successful business whilst also having sustainability at the core of everything that you do. So we're B-Corp certified and work really hard to be the good version of a good business. And that sort of extends through to the industry level, where I try to share our journey, my learnings with my colleagues, and actually on ACCA Global Council to work from the other end of the spectrum, working with like the largest membership body in the world to help set the path for the profession for the decades ahead. So quite a few jobs going on.
I like how you say it so casually and with humility. Because we had Mark Lee on a couple of weeks ago, and he's similar kind of thing. Like, he's done so much for the industry, respected by many, and just not bragging about it. Just like, this is what I've done, this is what I do, and I love doing it. So thank you for that. Would you like a serious follow-up question or a daft question?
Let's go straight to daft.
If you're a biscuit, what kind of biscuit would you be that accurately portrays your personality and why? But please don't pick your favorite biscuit.
Oh. Damn it. Can we have the serious one? No, go on, hang on. I've got this. I think that I would identify as a lemon puff.
Okay.
So it looks a bit like a custard cream, like the citrusy cream layer inside, and it's sandwich style. But the sandwich style, is it a biscuit or is it actually trying to be pastry? So it's sort of, to all intents and purposes, it's a biscuit. You find it in the biscuit aisle amongst all the other biscuits, but it's a bit of a rogue one, and actually thinks of itself as a bit of a pastry as well. So yeah.
Does that fit your profile of kind of like working in the accountancy industry but doing things slightly differently?
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely. I think coming back to that trailblazer question, it is sort of tongue in cheek, but also not really.
But own it. You were doing the ESG stuff before. I want to say before ESG was an acronym, I think. Kind of like the sustainability is important. It's a big focus. I think a lot of people follow your lead. A lot of people follow what you say and do. You've been a B Corp for quite a while as well, haven't you?
Yeah, since 21.
How was that journey, by the way? Because we're also a B Corp, but like, how did you find it? Because it's not an easy label to achieve.
It's not. I found it quite easy because essentially we were already there, so we didn't have to change much. Like an organization like Creston Reeves, much larger practice, lots of partners to wrangle into this ethos. We're small, we're agile, we can do what we like. I can do what I like, and had already done a lot of it. So really, it was actually not just a box ticking exercise. It was helpful in some ways. I needed a health and safety policy because we had more than 5 employees at that point. I didn't realize it. B Corp certification process actually. What's your health and safety policy? I was like,
have it to hand. I'll just go and just can you give me 2 weeks? Yeah,
exactly.
It does make me wonder what kind of things do you need to put in a health and safety policy for running an accounting practice? Because it's not like you're climbing ladders or carrying rhubarb. Like you're not carrying. You're sitting at a desk.
Did you say carrying rhubarb?
No, steel rebar. Like rebar. Sorry, rebar, not rhubarb. Rebar. Like the steel. Twitty things. They're going to girders. That's what I meant. I said the wrong word.
As I understand it, it's just the law of the land that as you're an employer of 5, you've got to have a policy, and so that's what Simply Docs was for at the time, but ChatGPT is for now.
Yeah, fair play. I mean, I guess you need display screen equipment regulations to make sure people take their breaks and don't sit on podcasts in the lunch break.
Yeah, you've got a first aid kit somewhere, and an accident book. I don't know. It wasn't at the centre of our B Corp journey.
Okay, speaking of the B Corp thing, why would you recommend companies of any size or scale get B Corp certified? Why would they do it? What's the benefit?
2 things. One is the badge, and there's like an ISO certification. Like having the badge is an important element of the certification. You can do all the stuff without going through certification, paying the fees, and having the logo to put on your website. You can do it regardless, either way. So part of it is absolutely having the badge and being able to visually demonstrate this is what we stand for, this is where we're coming from, and for me it starts the conversation here with anyone rather than anything sort of backgroundy. We're not a profit for at any cost kind of a business. Actually, we think about things differently. So no, B Corp, and then you can start the conversation. So that's part of it. What I've actually really discovered is the principle of continuous improvement is super important within it, because once you make the part of the process is a declaration and a commitment to continuous improvement. So you can obviously just make that declaration and do a couple of things here and there, but when we certified, so that the process, for anyone who doesn't know, there's a tool called the B Impact Assessment, which is a great big long questionnaire that scans all areas of a business and says, what do you do in this area? So it might be, I don't know, training, and do you do this, do you do that, do you have apprentices, etc., and you sort of tick the relevant box, get some points based on the box you tick, and the benchmark is 80. So we certified in 2021 at 83.5, I think, so just crept over the line. Since then, we've just, we're at our 3-year recertification point. Since then, we've gone up to 105, which has come about from some intentional decisions, like looking at the way we do things and thinking, well, what can we do that's better? So a recent example was in our last recruitment, and we're going again now, we actually went with a blind screening process. So we redacted the CV, so there are no markers of age, gender, racial heritage, anything like that in the CVs. We're just looking at what the facts were, and that scores higher on the B Impact Assessment for a more inclusive hiring process. So it sort of helped us. I mean, that in itself was an eye-opening value add for our business. It was actually a really useful process.
Lucy Cohen was talking about this, wasn't she, when she was on? I'm sure it was Lucy, and she was saying that blind hiring is something that we should do more in our world. And she pulled out the example of, was it the New York Philharmonic Orchestra, and they'd been 100% male and had peddled for years that actually that was just because men were better. That was it. It was just like, we just take men because they're the better musicians. Then they brought in blind interviewing or blind whatever, the auditioning, I guess is probably how you would call it, and they're now leveled out to 50-50. Which probably is easy. It must be quite tricky to do that, I guess. There's only comes a point where you've got to meet the person, right, rather than with music. Listen to them playing without being able to see them. That probably takes you further down that track. But yeah, interesting.
I think for me it came from just a discomfort with my being aware of my own unconscious bias as I was screening in the previous one. You get 200 CVs on Indeed, and you're just using a blunt instrument to whittle it down to a usable number to actually start considering a shortlist. And I was just deeply uncomfortable with the awareness that I had that there are all these unconscious biases at play, and just felt there's got to be something better, and found that there was a route to redacting CVs without it being too traumatic. And I found it great.
You may have noticed me looking away. The reason why I was doing that, I was looking for a post by Rachel Harris from yesterday, and she talked about this because she's launched something like an initiative. What's it called?
Was it a bursary scheme that Free Agent sponsors? Yeah.
Yeah, sponsored by Free Agent.
Yeah.
First Intuition.
Free Agent?
Who are they? Yeah, no. Again, they're not paying us to say this, despite Tony working for them. But Free Agent have done a bursary scheme with Rachel Harris, First Intuition, and she goes through some really cool stats, right, or alarming stats. Only 7% of accountancy professionals come from a working class background. Only 23% of UK accountants identify as an ethnic minority, despite significantly high interest from underrepresented groups in finance and apprenticeships. So yeah, things like that. Blind CVs will go a long way to help with that, because we all have biases.
Yeah, and
I've witnessed this on hiring panels myself, where people have had a certain surname and it's presumed that English is their second language, where it's not true.
Yeah, it's something that actually you can address, and the B-Corp ethos is what made me address it. So that's one of the value adds of being B-Corp. So,
cool. Yeah. And just for the record, I don't think we mentioned this, but obviously you're an accountant, and I need to ask you the question that lots of non-accountants want to know of accountants, because accountants talk about this particular thing all the time. They just want to journal it over, make a journal, make an adjustment. James, what's a journal, and can you dumb it down to laymanize it for us, please?
I think there are two answers to this.
Okay.
There is the right answer, which is that it is the recording of a financial transaction in an accounting system. Normally it'll take the form of debits, credits, here's the date, here's the amount, here's the description, and these are the accounts it's impacting. And that's the financial transaction, and it's any type of transaction. I think the modern answer is that this is when you go into Free Agent, Xero, QuickBooks, and stick in a manual adjustment. So I think there's the manual journal, which is what that is, has become has shorthanded to journal. So there's two answers, but the correct one is the first one.
Thank you for explaining. I appreciate it, because accountants love the journal stuff. Usually because someone's done something bad in the books or something mistaken in the books. I understand that.
There's always usually a negative connotation attached with the requirement for a journal, right?
Well, I mean, this is where we're bringing our skills and our value to bear, right? It's like, yeah, that's wrong. We can fix it with a journal.
Do you think accountants should explain the fixes they make or not?
Explain the
fixes, the changes that they make. Should they? Yeah.
I mean, no, not at a technical level. Not with small business clients. They're not interested. I mean, we've got to express the value that we've delivered for our own sake, but actually they're interested in the outcome, which is how can I achieve my business mission. So I mean, we have this conversation with usually prospects, where in the world we're working in, revenue recognition's a thing. If you've got a software as a service business that's doing 12-month contracts, getting paid on day one for the 12 months, we'll have to explain to them how we need to present their P&L through the use of journals and smoothing that income out over the period. But I just don't want to have you having too many of those conversations with clients.
No, fair enough. It's a tricky one, isn't it? Because
you made me go accounting again.
All right, fine. We won't go accounting again. I just need to do it for the non-accounting viewers like me. Tony, I monopolised the questions. Over to you, good sir.
Yeah, I'm interested in I've got tons of stuff that I could pull on here. We're only 13 minutes in, which has flown by. My first question was pre-B Corp, back to the start of being running a business and taking that transition and the sustainability stuff. What's the origin of it? Where did it all come from originally? The sort of sustainability B Corp angle, James.
So I'll take you back to 2009-10, when I was working as a finance director in the advertising industry. And sort of small agency, 60 odd people. So creative agency. I was the only grown up, hence a lot of the white hair.
I can actually imagine it now. You surrounded by loads of 20-year-olds and beanbags, and being the finance person saying, "No, we've got a budget," and all them going, "It's cool. We'll make a small stock." That's how I imagine how it went down.
Yeah, pretty much.
I just imagine so many people. If we had thousands of viewers, people there would be going, "Oh, I feel so seen. That's me. I'm the only grown up in the room."
I mean, the CEO, the owner of the business, who's just basically this great big blob of charisma. But trying to rein him in and keep him on mission.
You need ideas, people, right?
Exactly. How things have changed. I've kind of become that crazy ideas person, and my team are trying to rein me in these days.
Yeah, you saw it and you were like, right, can't beat him. I'm going to go be that person, right? In my mind, the immediate thing that conjured up was do you watch Clarkson's Farm? Charlie in Clarkson's Farm, like the grown up in the room, right? Yeah, immediately.
Yeah, that sounds about right. But yeah, at that time, it's a creative business, and you're only as good as your product. It's quite a streaky business, so you win when you're winning, and then you start losing pitches because you're losing, and it's just a lot. So how do you get the best product? And that's where my wife actually at the time was employee engagement consultant. And I was learning about this employee engagement thing over dinner after this day of being a grown-up. I was like, oh, okay, I see this. So if we have happy, motivated, engaged people, then they're probably going to bring their A game, their discretionary effort to the table. This sounds like a commercial driver to me. I'm all for it. And I just went at it 100 miles an hour. Our agency, I think we won Media Employer of the Year. We won 3 years worth of, very high grade recognition from the industry, the IPA, who's the Professional Association in Advertising. I went on for 5 years to be a judge of those same awards. And then around 2017, I learned about the Sustainable Development Goals. So these little fellas down here from the United Nations, which is, by 2030, if we work on these things of no poverty, quality education, climate action, all of this stuff, then we'll have a much better world within which to live and to raise our kids. And it just started to become a light bulb for me. I was like, okay, so if employee engagement has moved from training and fruit bowls and pool tables to wellness programs and a holistic management and feedback methodology, then actually what they care about out of work is going to be the next component of this. And it was just a progression for me that, okay, so if we start focusing on what we'd now call sustainability, but actually, our impact on the world around us, the people around us, our communities and what have you, then surely that's a commercial driver as well. I just tested it out. So I signed up with B1G1, who's like the micro giving platform, took the 1% pledge. So 1% of revenue was going to go to these good causes, and figured surely either this is going to pay back, or at worst, we're going to swing 1% of buying decisions our way by being able to talk about this, and just started experimenting. So that was maybe 2019, and that's where I suddenly got laser focused on what is goal 13, which is climate action. Because I was at a B1G1 conference. I love them, love the community, wonderful people. But there was a presentation in there talking about this international speaker sharing how cheap it was to plant trees. And why don't we all commit to planting enough trees to offset the flights of the people in front of us and the people behind us while I'm flying around doing my international speaking gigs? I was like, is anyone else buying this? Where's the equivalence? My little accountant's brain was going, error. And I just went away from that, thinking, whoa, we really don't get it, do we? How long do those trees take before they start to absorb any carbon, progressively?
I assume 20, 30 years. I'm assuming it's quite a long time.
It's just not the solution. So I was like, okay, so if this room is thinking that that's the solution, then I'm going to work on the solution. And so move through this. I sort of started on tree planting, and I think that's when the B-Corp certification came into my world. And yeah, one thing led to another, and suddenly we're million tree pledgers, which it was kind of a big statement alongside B-Corp to say, this is what we're doing. I'm also going to make a commercially successful business alongside that. Watch.
And does it so I've talked to Penny Allard on this subject, and I'm interested in the effect that it has on hiring as well. So presumably the people that come to you, not all of them, I'm sure, but a bunch of them are self-selected to be kind of interested in that part of the business and aligned with it, right? Does that happen, or is that Is that fanciful?
Honestly, a bit. Like it's not what attracts people, but I guess it's because sustainability, for want of a better word, is absolutely threaded through everything. I'll look at actually our how we would advertise a role and think, well, these 7 things, I could describe them as sustainability, but actually it just makes it look like a really attractive role. So they're coming for the fact that we have flexible working, that we pay good wages, that we have interesting work and really nice clients. And we're kind of at the front edge of what the accounting industry are doing. We've been 100% cloud since 2013, since day one. It's always been part of what we do. And I'm really nice to work for. And so we kind of, we kind of attract people, and as they discover this other side of what we're doing mission wise, they're like, oh, that's really cool. I'd like to be part of that. So we don't have difficulty attracting people as such.
But I think, can I quote you or paraphrase you something you said before we went live? Because you said something like, you don't really market, you just kind of create this gravity that, and what you're saying makes sense, right? Like, deep cries to deep, game recognized game, like for like. If you have a certain vibe or energy about you and you project that, people will see it and go, oh, I resonate with that. I want to work with this person. I think that's a great way of doing things. So 100% agree with you.
Yeah. I mean, I do marketing in that I have a website and I am on LinkedIn once in a while posting something and thinking about what landing page can we have for this type of prospect. But we're not dealing in cold prospects that are coming from Google AdWords. We're dealing with people who already know quite a lot about us and just want to find out more. So that's where our marketing is pointed. But that gravity I create actually as an accountant on LinkedIn, I'm generally talking about sustainability and industry topics rather than startup and accounting topics. And as a result, I have quite a lot of accountants in my network, quite a lot of startup founders, and both seem to enjoy the content and engage with it. And it just adds some credibility to what I'm saying as well, what we say on the website. It's the fact that I'm out there being an influencer on sustainability makes the whole of the rest of it authentic.
Do you mind if I share one of my thoughts with you? It's come to mind. One of the best and worst things about having someone like you on the show is you say so many awesome things.
Yeah, I know. Right?
I'm actively listening to you and going, what can I ask next, right? And you say so many cool things. I'm like, what can I ask you about next? Do I? Because I don't want to cut you off because what you're saying is fantastic. And I'm like, do I take it serious? Do I ask you? Oh, so many good things. Okay. Because again, what you said about like you projecting yourself on LinkedIn, I've noticed the accountants that do best on LinkedIn don't really mention that they're accountants that much. They talk about what their passion is, and they attract those people, which is absolutely fantastic, and that's great. I lost my train of thought.
Do you want me to ask? I've got one more question before we hand back over to Dale before I just continue to monopolise things. But so you work a lot with early stage tech businesses, James. And I'm fascinated, having worked in the tech world for a decade now, and worked for it, and also with lots of people at various stages in various different ways, whether that's through software or that's through conversations about them starting up tech businesses. And it eternally fascinates me. Like, what are the things that the things that you see in founders where you're like, they'll do all right with this, and then other times you're like, this is going to be a hard battle? I know that's quite a big question.
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and honestly, it's a muscle I'm still developing. I think there are founders who really talk a great game, and actually, when you're not the FD that's alongside them most of the time, you can kind of get a little bit blinded by how good a game they're talking, and then you find out sometime later they didn't know on earth what they're on about, and actually they've made some horrible mistakes, and with the hindsight I wish I'd just challenged them on that thing. So I think that I think the ones that do well tend to have such a flexible brain, because you've got so many hats to wear, so many context shifts you have to adopt. And we generally work with sole founders rather than like 2 or 3, like not deliberately, it just seems to be the gravity pulls them towards us. And they are having to flip from being creative to being tough to being process-led, product-led sales. And that's where we just sort of slide in. We're like, okay, well, this whole finance thing where you don't have to wear that hat, and we'll just take that off your hands. But yeah, I think it's a lot about the idea.
It always comes back to the numbers, right? In the end, in some form or other, in some way or other, over a long enough timeline, it always comes back to the numbers, right?
Yeah, because you can help sustain them for longer and longer so they can get that idea off the ground, or find out that it's not going to get off the ground, and get that closure. But yeah, we don't have many instances where people run out of road and then try again. It's like normally when they run out of road, they're like, yeah, okay, I've explored that one and I'm just going to try this other thing now.
Cool. Looking at the background of your office, is that a coffee machine I see behind the plant?
Yes.
Good.
So we have Zero Football, Sage all the way for
zoom in on you.
Machine.
Okay, Zero Football, Sage all the way. This leads nicely to one of Tony's more famous questions. Tony, if you would.
Yeah. Dude, I presume you drink coffee and that's not a coffee machine for other people, James? Yeah.
Yep.
So if we can agree that sort of local artisan sustainable coffee shop is like the A1, and this will be an interesting question from your angle as well, is if you are stuck with chain generica and you are somewhere and there is no artisan coffee and you have to go and buy from one of the big chains, like, what's your favorite one? What's the one you're going to actively avoid and just stick to the water if you've only got that option?
Okay. So the one I go to, Nero, kind of that comes from my FD job because there's one just around the corner. So partly habitual, partly that my Vitality rewards give me a freebie Nero every week, provided I do enough steps or enough swimming or whatever. But also, yeah, I guess I've got used to that coffee, and so it's not unexpected when it's a little bit more bitter than I would necessarily choose. Bottom of the list, always Costa. Like, I don't even care to like compare coffee.
Light in me
to any
sees
other.
The light in you.
It's the experience in Costa. It's never good.
Is it because you have milk in your coffee? Because I prefer Costa out of all the chains, and I have black coffee. Tony dislikes Costa because their sizing's all wrong because the amount of milk they put in.
Right. No, my order's an Americano.
Right.
And yeah, so I'm a very easy customer for anyone. So the coffee really does need to stand up. It is the customer service in Costa that I generally struggle with. I don't know. It's maybe more of a franchise model than some of the others, and maybe a bit more variable as a result. But yeah, that's Nero top, Costa bottom, Starbucks I'm kind of pretty neutral about.
For the record, if anyone from Starbucks, Costa, Nero, or Pret is watching, the guests of this show have their own opinions. They do not represent Flabongo morphology. Please do not sue us.
Yeah, I generally take my own though.
That's right.
I generally take my Perky Blenders coffee roasters and just put it in my own cup, and off we go.
I'm not gonna hijack it any further because I think this is one I'm going to put a post up on LinkedIn and see if I can get some good advice on. But I've been searching for a very long time for a good travel mug, and like I've got a very, very, very like set of criteria that I need to tick in my travel mug in order for it to be like the one that I'll keep forever. And like I thought I'd found it, and like it's turned out that actually it ticks pretty much every box except the doesn't leak box.
That's like the biggest criteria of a travel mug. Like you can forgive it for letting the coffee get a bit cold after like 4 hours, but if it leaks, it's like
it's exactly that issue.
It only leaks under, so it's like you need moderate terrain in order for it to leak. So like the coffee needs to like kind of be banging against the top of the mug. It's like a little Yeti one. It's really good, like keeps the coffee really hot, doesn't taste of the container. It's the right shape and really funny. I don't like a massive one. I want like a flat white sized coffee mug. Fits in my car. Like looks cool. But it leaks. But in like the little tap thing at the top's actually really good. Like you get the right amount of coffee out, but it leaks. So I'm going to put a post up about it.
Can't help you there, I'm afraid. Same problem.
I'm going to break the fourth wall, if you'll excuse me, gentlemen. Viewers, people who've commented, if you're still there, please ask James some questions. He's very good at what he does. He's been doing it quite a while. It's a good time for you to ask questions about business, advice, strategy, planning. This is a great time to ask someone who's done it and is doing it well right now. Please ask him questions. And also, if you think your question is going to be stupid or daft, it can't be dafter than the questions I ask. So please, type in the chat. Like, it's good to see a few people. Catherine Frimond, she's a sustainability wizard who does bookkeeping and accounts as well. She's great. She's been on the show. LinkedIn user, making jokes about biscuits. Don't know who that is, but thank you for commenting. James Owens reader, full transparency, I'm probably a rich tea. I'm going to judge you on that biscuit, Jordan, but to your face, not via this. And again, long-time show fan, Marcus Batson. Thanks, Marcus, for being here, if you're still here. So people, please ask him questions. Like, this is a great time to ask someone who knows what they're talking about. On to the silly questions. If you could eat, I assume, James, do you eat meat? There you go. Mm-hmm. If you could eat one meat for the rest of your life, forsaking all others, what meat you're choosing? Bearing in mind, if you pick, again, one particular animal, you can never eat the other animals again.
Yeah, I'd be good with only having chicken.
Yeah.
Have cut down most of the other stuff so that it's not like transactional food. It's more treat food. Like, I'm conscious of the impact of, say, a heavy beef diet, both health and environmentally wise. But, you know, if I'm going to have beef, then it's going to be something someone else has cooked for me, and it's going to be really nice. And it's like very much a once in a while thing. Whereas chicken, I'm the cook at home, and I can make plenty of really nice food with chicken.
It's a good versatile meat. I'm going to ask you a serious question. One which I admit that my knowledge is lacking in. Sustainability and fintech. Now, I'll give you my understanding of it. Fintech and sustainability, there's like a holy grail, right? That people want a system where you can plug in all the numbers and it spits out all your carbon emissions, et cetera, et cetera. But from my understanding is there's quite a lot of complexity around carbon accounting and what you have to keep track of. Have you seen any systems that do this well, or could you make any suggestions on what systems need to be in place, or is it literally just still the wild, wild west and no one quite knows just yet?
So this is why I wrote a book. No, shamelessly jumping in there with
what's the name of your book, James?
So it's called Catalyst. It's available for pre-order, but will be on Amazon hopefully next month. A couple of technical delays, but yeah, the answer to this question is there's technology, and it's pretty good. It does a decent job, and you can take it from being pretty good to being really good if you apply some more effort to it. So yeah, like Someday have got they're offering their platform for free with 0 subscriptions right now. The likes of Trace have been in the market for a long time now. Ecology Zero, they bought Net Zero now, so they're combining a really interesting project. There's Sage Earth, who are just they're going to release their version 2 later this year. So for smaller businesses, there's some really accessible tools. I don't really look at the big business world because it's just really different. You know, they're just primarily dealing with where can we find data, bringing that together. But you know, if you've got a cloud ledger and are a smaller business, then you can kind of plug it into something quite simple and get an initial read on a carbon footprint. I mean, it's pretty blunt instrument. It tends to work off pounds spent times coefficient for that spend category, and that coefficient comes from a national database of coefficients. So it's a bit of a blunt instrument and has flaws, but what it does do is it tells you where your main sources of emissions are and then leads you to actions that can potentially reduce that. And I think all the while I kind of look at this and think, okay, well, it's not a measurement as such, it's an estimate, but I'm happy with that estimate. It's telling me what I need to know in terms of making a business decision to then do something meaningful. Like carbon accounting is not the output we're looking for, it's actually carbon reduction. And those actions are fairly well documented. You just got to make the choice as to what you're prioritizing and what the return on investment might be on those decisions, what the business implication, what the business case is ultimately for making some of these decisions. So yeah, it's there and it's improving. AI is helping with some of the categorization. There's interesting stuff at the sort of the banking level where we've lived with open banking for quite a while now, and there's a project now that's got its first customers live where you've got an open banking for utilities. So pulling in the small business kilowatt hours from their electricity bills from their utility provider into the banking system so that they can judge that against their loan criteria and actually lend to businesses where it's matching their own net zero ambitions. So yeah, lots changing.
I could see Free Agent doing something like that.
Yeah. B-Corp is something that is Free Agent thinks quite a lot about this sort of stuff. And a lot of the stuff that James has said is going to resonate with Free Agent as a business. So we're not a B-Corp, but yeah.
I'm going to have to jump into the chat
connection with NatWest as well, and so they're doing quite a lot on the sort of. I think they've got a version of Sage Earth free to their small business customers. So it's not long before these things start linking up, and really not long. They're working to a 2030 deadline, so they're working really hard on using the tech to make this work better.
Cool. I called out the viewers and they responded. So I'm gonna jump into the chat with some questions. Some of them are serious, some of them are silly. We'll just read them out and how it goes. LinkedIn user who's anonymous. If you're good enough B Corp, do you get to be an A Corp? Thank you, LinkedIn user. If you could let us know who you are, by the way, because for some reason you're not showing up.
I thought it showed up as Catherine Frimond, and then it's changed to LinkedIn user. So
I think they've blocked you, mate.
Possibly could have been it, yeah.
So the B stands for benefit. I'm not sure what the A would stand for, but
awesome,
hey,
obviously.
Let's create a new certification.
Marcus Batson, I think, is coming with a serious question. Let's find out. Marcus Batson, there's clearly a lot of benefit of looking through ESG lens, but change can be hard and often resisted, if not vital. How do you approach this with a team and clients? I assume that's to you, James.
Love the question. Because like whether it's ESG or net zero, whatever label you want to apply, it's been politicized, and net zero is going to bankrupt us. You got this political party who's against us, against it, and this one who talks a good game but they're not prioritizing it. ESG, it's like it's massive rollback in the US because of politics. So for me, it's like, okay, we can look at this as individuals. Like, do I want cleaner air, like cooler planet?
Not really.
For the kids.
I want dirty air.
What can I do as a person? But for years, I've been banging on about, well, let's put our professional hat on. How do we approach this problem as an accountant? And for me, that leads through to business case. So change being resisted, like energy efficiency saves money, saves emissions. Why would you resist? So like cognitive diversity in a decision-making forum, whether it's a board meeting or a management team, having people from different backgrounds brings that cognitive diversity to a decision, and you can therefore expect a more considered decision, fewer of those biases leaking into your decision-making process. Governance, like you just got to look at the crazy antics of Elon Musk and what it's doing to his business's share price to understand the role of governance and its importance. So, ESG, there's all really solid business case behind being strong on each of these pillars. Net zero, it's codified in UK law. You've got more than 80% of the FTSE 100 committed to a net zero pathway with 50% reduction by 2030. The economy is shifting. The green transition is happening. It's not like wishful thinking. And so as professional accountants, how do we advise our clients? How do we run our own businesses in this transition? It's really weird to me that we've had this massive economic disruption signal to us. It's really clear what the pathway is to 2050. Things are going to decarbonize. We don't get that forewarning with a credit crunch, with a pandemic, with whatever recession. We've got this forewarning with the green transition. So let's put our accountants' hats on and advise our clients how to navigate it. So there will be trade-offs with some of the harder reductions later. Like you have to make a judgment call on whether the medium ones, that you have to make a judgment call on using cash for investment on maybe an asset like solar panels that in the long-term payback, actually it's not that long these days. But there's some really easy measures you can do now that actually are win-win. So let's talk about those.
Such as?
Yes, let's talk about those.
Like energy efficiency. It's super easy. Use less electricity, reduce your carbon emissions, and save money. It's really low investment stuff. Like you don't have to put a heat pump in necessarily, but stick a smart plug on your electric heater.
I have a colleague who genuinely dislikes heat pumps. Like he's fully into sustainability. He's had electric cars for years, but he's not a fan of the heat pumps because he thinks they take up a lot of space. They're not as efficient as people say they are. He's kind of averse to them, and he knows his stuff as well. So I listen to him.
Yeah, it's a tough context to be working in because there's always someone that talks negatively from a good place. So I still grates with me, but I got called out for not being vegan. And therefore I'm just paying lip service to sustainability. And I'm like, why is vegan the bar at which we're setting ambition? I mean, how much single-use plastic are you using, what you do in your rest of your lifestyle? And by the way, do you know what my diet is? Like, yes, I have beef once in a while, but actually what we've done in our household over the last few years is transition our diet massively. So yeah, it's just one of the struggles of being visible in this space that you get called out by, it's blue on blue. You get called out by your own people. It's really annoying.
It's virtue signaling, isn't it, really? Let's be honest.
A little bit.
You say you're good at this, but how good are you really? Well, you're still doing more than most people. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, just don't fight each other. If you work together, it'll be great. It's just people trying to point score. It's very frustrating and annoying, and I also dislike it as well.
So I'm not an expert in heat pumps. I'm not an expert in climate science. Other people are. I'm an expert in what I do, which is business, accounting, finance. What can we do to help you achieve your goals, and how can we do it sustainably?
One more comment from a viewer, because again, I asked them to make comments.
I've identified the LinkedIn user. It's Richard Sargent. They're all him. And I had a quick look in the background.
Oh, Richard Sargent. Yeah. He's coming on in a few months, I think.
He is. He's coming to just check out the what he needs to get ready for, I think.
I think he's one of the few people that have actually done this. They do the research before they come on the show to realize what ridiculous questions are going to be asked.
Either that or he just likes listening. It might be that. I don't know.
Maybe. Anyway, so what is the most ecologically sound vinyl or streaming services?
So, are we talking like vinyl, the meeting notes taker?
I think he means. I think we are men of a certain age. We all remember vinyl records, so I think he means an LP.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say the vinyl probably already exists. But I don't know.
Tough one though, because
like I say, I'm not a climate scientist, but I think the second part of the question is really interesting.
Vinyl uses plastic because vinyl is plastic, so that's a finite resource, not very recyclable. At the same time, streaming services use computers, and we know computers use data centers, and data centers use up a ton of electricity. That's a good one.
Yeah, and like, is the vinyl, like, where do they turn it into a piece of music? Is it in this country? Is it in other countries? Has it been shipped? Like, there's so many questions within it. But I think the streaming services one is a really interesting one. Like, the digital carbon footprint is really not not getting the visibility perhaps. More so now though, with people are asking questions around, that action figure thing that went through LinkedIn like a wildfire of people doing their AI generated action figure. And invariably there's a question on there saying, have you considered how much digital resources you're wasting in this? Yeah, what about your Disney Plus subscription that you never watch?
So the first time I heard about like the impact of computing, or genuinely considered it, because obviously I know you use electricity, was last year at Accountex. There was a lecturer, Mari, can't remember her full name. She talked about the impact and the amount of water that ChatGPT uses. And I think on average, a query to ChatGPT uses something like 500 milliliters to a liter of water per inquiry, and ChatGPT gets something like 3 million inquiries a day. So you can imagine in a year it's used like an ocean, I exaggerate, an ocean's worth of water to keep the servers cool, which is things I'd never really thought about, but it makes sense when you put it that way.
Doing it in an area like California that has already got massive water problems. And the southeast of England where we are, like we're fairly, we're looking ahead at some pretty bad scenarios around our own water security. And needing to get a proper water grid in place across the country to get water down from the top of the country down to our parts in future years. So they're really important questions. It just kind of needs some consideration as to around waste in general, whether it's buying some tat off Amazon or having fun with ChatGPT, but not really thinking about the 7 different images you just created just to get it just so. I think
as someone who's done this, I can only apologise. I've done it.
I'm not perfect. I've done it.
I've done it.
I got bored of it and stopped doing it.
Just fear of what it would come out with.
I did a test Copilot versus ChatGPT for image generation. ChatGPT is way better. Like Copilot just does some crazy hallucinations. It didn't even get Tony's face correct one time. I put like a picture of me and Tony in there, and it made him Albanian. Like it was, it was insane.
It made me look like a really sad Harry Kane. I thought.
Yeah.
Someone had taken Harry Kane's trophy off him after he'd worked 15 years to get one, and then sorry, you're not having that on Harry. Yeah.
I tried to get it to do a Darth Vader meme for me, and it's like, no, sorry, can't do that. Not allowed to. No, do it like this. Sorry, no. Apparently that also breaches our rules. Like. Try this. No, that breach. Oh, they're suing you over that Homer Simpson one, aren't they? It's like, yeah, we can't poke the mouse.
Speaking of Darth Vader, Star Trek or Star Wars?
I think Star Wars. I do enjoy Star Trek, but Star Wars, I've probably seen more of.
Which is your favourite film in the franchise?
Was that a Darth Vader impression then?
I think it might be Empire Strikes Back. It's just a little bit more edgy.
Okay.
Like the newer ones are a little bit daft.
Yes, they are, with some daft characters. Which leads to my next question. If there was one fictional character you could punch in the face and get away with it, no repercussions, who would it be?
Purely just because I want to know.
Called you out for being vegan. Not being vegan.
Sadly, they weren't fictional. I think it'd be Slimer off Ghostbusters because, firstly, stop messing up that ballroom. It's just rude.
Yeah.
But also, what's that going to feel like? Like,
get
some ectoplasm on all the way up your arm. Like, I think that, and I tell my kids all about it.
You give Slimer a slap. All right, good shout, good shout. All right, that's a more unique one that we've had. I like that. Thank you.
And immediate answer as well. There was
no hesitation. Slimer's getting it.
Exactly. James, if you would humour me, I haven't run this by Dale, but I'm sure you won't mind. I've got I want to do like a quick fire questions thing. I did it at the beginning of the year when I had the great fortune to interview our CEO, Rowan, for our PracticeCon event internally. And it went well. So I've got some of these questions. There's nothing too hairy in there, but it just give us a ton more threads, I'm sure, to pull on. But hopefully the next time we have you on FM. So I'm going to ask you a few of them. And when I wrote them out, I was kind of like, these are quick fire questions, but some of the answers are probably longer form. So we'll see how we go, and then we can tweak and improve in the future. So first question, what is one skill you wish you had, but you don't?
Sherlock Holmes, when he goes into his mind palace thing and just goes to the bit that's really important, grabs that and works on that. Some version of that, because my mind is mostly a mess of, I'm quite a restless person. It's mostly got 7 things going on, if not more at one time. And just focusing down on the one thing is, I wish I was better at just breathe, visit the mind palace, right? Okay, I'm going to reply to that email that's been, the monkey on my back, and just, something of that nature.
The frog that needs eating.
Mm.
Favorite country you've ever visited?
Oh, Nepal.
That's right up there for me as well. Favorite country you've never visited, or like one you want to visit the most is probably a better way of putting it.
Bhutan.
Okay, interesting. Similar part of the world, right? I'm trying my absolute best to not pull on any of these threads and get through more questions rather than just go off on tangent. So I hope you're not seeming rude, like I have no reaction or emotional care about your response at all, but we shall continue. With hindsight, what alternative career could you have pursued if it wasn't the road that you've gone down?
Could I, or do I wish I had?
Do you wish you had?
Good one, because I think I'm fairly happy with where I am. So I think if it was something, it'd be being a business owner earlier.
Good answer. When I was a child, I wanted to be 2 things. One was a marine biologist, and the other one was to sell balloons at Twycross Zoo. Neither of which very specific. Had to be Twycross Zoo as well.
Hey.
So maybe it was one of those for me. Favorite food?
Cake.
Nice.
What kind of cake? Sorry.
All right.
I mean,
we got to like question 5 before we started asking
literally any
follow-up
cake.
questions.
Any cake. Okay, I'll be quiet. I'm going to mute myself while Tony finishes with the quick fire there.
I'd probably choose a carrot cake if there's a table in front of me, though.
Yeah, same. Favorite workout?
Or mountain biking, although I haven't done it for too long.
Nice. What is your spirit animal?
I genuinely thought you were joking when you put that in the post before.
Absolutely.
Actually, asking what spirit animal is.
You'd think that I would have thought about that. So just because it's right there in my head and I can't think of anything else now, otter. Why would it be an otter? I guess they're playful, restless.
They're quite smart, good all-rounders.
Yeah.
Quite happy to just lay back and chill. Inventive, grab a stone to bash the oyster or whatever they see otters do. So it's something like that. And it's one of my, I did a school project on it when I was little.
We have done 6. I'm going to do 10. The book that you recommend the most often?
His own book, obviously. Sorry.
Yeah, recently it's that. I think probably The Road Less Stupid, although it's been a little while since so that's by, what's his name? Road Less Stupid by, don't know, can't remember. Keith Cunningham, there we go. It's just like a whole series of short chapters of real business leader nuggets. And he's got this theme of the dumb tax, which is the bad decision. And, this is what you can do instead. So actually it's really digestible, but actually gold in terms of his advice.
Conjured up the book that I read that always stuck really hard with me was Factfulness, which was sort of, I think, similar to what I thought you were going to say, but wasn't what you said, which is just like, we think the world is like this, and actually it's very, very different to how we actually think it is. So if you haven't read that, then I would recommend that. It's one I recommend quite a bit. 2 more. Your most hated grammatical error or mispronounced word?
So I don't get too het up about this, but the one that really jars is when it's then rather than than. I just don't get that error. I just don't understand it more than the other one. Like, how how has that person gone through their life to think it's that? And weirdly enough, the Charisma Blob boss of mine back in the day did this, so there's probably some like long-term scarring that's made this true.
Can I answer
this one? Mine is people saying specifically instead of specifically.
Yeah,
like that one irks me to no end. I will correct people on that one.
Yeah, I don't get that. And I give people the benefit of the doubt on that. I think there must be like something in the brain that's wired differently that makes them say it wrong.
I can't abide it. I can't.
Espresso, that is one that gets me. My favorite, I'm so petty about this stuff, and one of my favorites is like, you know, when it's all going off in the group chat and there's like a little banter flying around, and like someone just ends it with with a grammatical correction from like way up in the group will never ever not make me smile. There's it. Yeah, I love it. Which I know just makes you such a poor example of the human race, but yeah.
How many more questions have we got left? Have we managed to get through all 10? Have we done it?
I've got like 15, so I'm just sort of picking them out. I've got one more. Right. I think one or two more. Favorite podcast?
Oh, I don't have one at the moment. Is this a podcast?
Technically, yeah.
So it's state of mind, really, but
yeah, I guess I'm listening to the Digital Disruptors one most currently. I also like Paul Shrimpling's Remarkable Practice. Is a work one. I don't tend to listen to non-work podcasts.
Interesting.
It's a time thing. The kids run me ragged.
Wait, can I jump in with a? Sorry.
Yeah, you can. Go on.
You said the kids run you ragged. How many kids do you have?
2, 6 and 9.
Which one's your favourite?
No favourites. They're both awesome in their different ways.
Savvy. Just in case, because it's recorded, isn't it? So
the internet lives forever, right?
I know, right?
I feel like we'll call time in the quick fire round right there, because that was the 10th question, and Dale slammed one in there that wasn't on my list. So I think that was good. I enjoyed that. That was good fun.
James, we've asked you lots and lots of questions as you've humoured us for this almost hour. Do you have any questions for myself and Tony?
Ooh, good one. Yeah, the question that actually I generally wonder at, like not just from you two, but across our industry, is the perception of sustainability. Like we kind of know that it's about doing the right thing, but the drum I bang is, it's the pragmatic thing for a business on a micro level. So I'm curious as to what you guys think about that. And how when we know that AI is going to disrupt our industry, to what degree do you feel that sustainability is kind of up there as well?
So, to make sure I've understood your question, are you asking how disruptive sustainability is going to be, or the impact it is on our profession?
I think how disruptive you feel it's going to be to our profession and to businesses. And do you think I'm crazy at pushing this agenda?
No, I think sustainability is akin to MTD, VAT, and ITSA for our clients. We know it's a good idea. This is generally speaking in the industry, not just KR or me. We know it's a good idea. We know it's a good idea to get into it earlier so we understand it when it becomes mandatory in compliance. But because human nature, we will kick the can down the road because there are things that are more obvious or more pressing in front of us. So I think everyone knows they've got to do something. Some people are more advanced than that. So we've got people in our firm who are full-on ESG champions. In fact, we launched that department very recently to say, this is ESG, it's what we do. We all know what we've got to do, but we drag our feet anyway because we're human beings. It's kind of a non-answer, but that's how I think it is.
No, it's a good answer. I get it.
And I think you're right. When you get to there's going to be a crunch time, a precipice, or a pivot, what you want to call it, where everyone's going to go, like, we have to do this. Like, we have to. And the people who will be laughing the hardest, the ones like yourselves and Catherine, who did it long before everybody else, who baked it into their business, who baked it into their service line, who baked it into their plans and their offerings. Everyone else will have to catch up, like with cloud accounting, like with AI, like with MTD.
Yes, I think that's right. Yeah.
My thoughts are probably similar, and so my thinking is, it was interesting in something you said earlier, James, about you were talking about like basically like reducing your electricity consumption, and you referred to it as a win-win. And I think that is the key to it, because I think that there's probably a perception of sustainability that it is a choice between win and lose. It's I have to change something which is going to make my experience of X, Y, or Z thing worse, because I'm going to have to either do something I don't already do because I'm lazy. As a human being, we naturally tend towards path of least resistance, and that by doing sustainability as a thing, it means that I'm going to decrease my enjoyment of life in some way or other, on an individual level, and therefore that's the sort of the drag, the resistance of it on a day-to-day basis, because we're, it's easy to just kind of forget that it's something that's happening out there in the world and not faced with the consequences of it on a day-to-day basis. I think from a macro level, that once the win-win can be cracked and that message can kind of overtake this is a compliance thing that you have to do, like when it becomes economically beneficial from a financial perspective to do this stuff, that's when it will really start to catch, and it'll be like, oh, well, if we do this, we're going to make more money, right? And we can do that in a very clear and obvious way, then that's when things will start to head in the right direction. I don't think you're crazy. I think that it's necessary. You would have caught my long spiel last week about cassowaries and rare species and my love of the natural world and the importance of this on that. So yeah, it's something I think about probably more than the Romans, actually. I think that it is something that needs to happen. And I was saying to my wife a couple of days ago, it'd be really nice to start to hear like just snippets in the news and articles of like, oh, this thing's now like the ozone hole is getting smaller, or like, the ice caps are actually starting to refreeze in this area, or like just some green shoots of like macro progress would be great. I don't concern myself enough with it on a daily basis to go look for that stuff. So I know I don't really consume the mainstream news either in any form. I can try and actively avoid it. So when it hits me, then it's happening, right? And it's been happening for a long time, right? So they're my thoughts.
Great. Yeah, I mean that is my perception. That is the kind of position from which objection comes from. I think the reality is that there are win-wins that are kind of optional. You can prioritize that or not. Maybe you're prioritizing making payroll instead this month. Some would argue that's more important. But also there's that moment where if you're in a supply chain, suddenly your key customer has had pressure put on them from above, and there's this question in the tender document that says not just what's your policy anymore, because that's long gone, but what have you done? And so that's where actually taking some early actions, some sort of the low friction ones, means you've got a story to tell when that question comes. So I think that's where we can start advising clients that, okay, I know this isn't the top priority, but if you just do that, then we've got a better story to tell when you have to tell the story. So yeah, maybe it's buying refurbished IT kit instead of brand new. That kind of it's not hard, and it's a lot better.
James, thank you for coming on the show. Honestly, could genuinely talk to you for like another hour.
Easy.
We skipped over so many good things. So we'd love to have you on again at some point if you're up for it. Thank you for joining. Everyone in the comments, thank you for commenting. Thank you to people who watched and didn't comment. Your views are much appreciated. Tony, thanks for being an awesome co-host. And we'll see you guys again next week. I can't remember who we got on next week, but we've got someone cool as usual. I'm going to hit end stream, smile for a little bit, and we'll roll out.
Thank you for having me.